Hello, I'm Shannon, and I'll be doing the voiceover today, and this is episode 2, Dark Web. Let's analyze this. Hello, and welcome back to LAT. We are finally back with episode 2, which is something a bit different from my last one. Today we are going to be exploring a video titled Buying a Real Mystery Box from the Dark Web. Now, as always, this episode may contain disturbing content and viewer discretion is advised. Also, please keep in mind these are just theories in this episode. I am not saying these are true or that the video is even real. Now that all the legal stuff is out of the way, I will admit this episode was a bit of a challenge. I had to call in a few other people to help me because a lot of it got me nowhere, and what did get me somewhere didn't help me. Now, this seems to be a new trend, and you can pretty much tell that most of these are fake, scams, or staged, but this one guy seemed to really do his research, so it made it more believable to me. I mean, the fact that he knew deep and dark web are two different things on its own made me trust him a lot more than someone like Jay Station, for example. Before I get into the actual video, I would like to talk about the deep web and dark web. Most people don't know this about me, but I used to be a hella edgy teenager. I used to listen to Black Sabbath and worship Satan and go on the dark web because I thought it made me cool. So I know a thing or two about this part of the internet. Anyway, the internet is broken into multiple parts, 8 levels to be exact. There's the common web, surface web, Bergy web, deep web, charter web, Marina's web, level 6, virus soup, and finally the Primarch system, or the final boss in the hacking community. Most of it doesn't matter, to be honest, since after level 6, no one really knows if it exists, and those who do don't talk about it, but I will still tell you about each level. Level 0, or common web, is pretty much everything on the web you have immediate access to. Google, Facebook, Bing, you name it. This is the safest and purest part of the internet. Now we have level 1, the surface web. This is accessible things but are more free. This is Reddit and Dig. Things that are accessible on regular browsers, but take a bit of looking to get to. These are also secure, but not as secure as common things, since this is all about your freedom of actions. Then there is level 2, Bergy web. That is places like beginner hacking websites, 4chan, and live leaks. Things that almost seem illegal, but are actually very legal to view. Now we have level 3 through 6. From here on, you will need a proxy so you can be protected. This is where you'll probably use Tor, even though level 3 doesn't exactly require it, but still I would use it. Now we get into the deep web. This is where shit goes down. You name it, they got everything, from gore to kiddie porn. You can even see live-streamed suicides and raids. Next is the charter web, but it always known as the dark web. This is where true illegal shit happens. It is split into 2 sections, the pre-shell and the post-shell. The pre-shell is where the hitmen, black market, banned media, personal information, illegal animals, human trafficking, etc. are. This is actually how far I even went but the post-shell is where you need to be careful. To access this part, you will need a closed shell system. This is a huge joke that even my old 4chan friends used to make fun of me for believing. Technically, there is no such thing as a closed shell system. To be honest, you can just download Osiris and a Hamburg Chaos VPN and you'll be fine. Pretty much, you will need a different kind of connection from your usual, so your IP cannot be traced as well as other things. This is where you can find the darker stuff of the dark web, hardcore rape and snuff films, mostly to children and animals. Location of Atlantis, war secrets, the works. Now you might as well stop, because from here on out, you will be putting yourself and everyone around you in danger. All it takes is one wrong move and boom, you can be killed or taken in by the government. This is pretty much the hacker Hunger Games from here on out. Now that I have given you the warning of warnings, we'll talk about the last few levels. These are the worst of the worst. Now I'm going to pretend I know what's on it. My hacking skills were never to this level and my friends don't like talking about it. But this is pretty much the darkest and the deepest of the web that has been seen. In case you don't know, Marina's Trench is the deepest point of the Pacific Ocean. It is also the deepest trench in the world. So this level of the web is named properly. It might not even exist, but people will say it does. That goes for the last 3 as well. Okay, so he starts off by explaining the deep web and the dark web and how he bought the box. He flashed the website on the screen, so it already made it more believable than Mr. "Hey guys, it's Jay Station." Now he said he didn't want to give his home address, so he sent it to a P.O. box, which is very smart. But P.O. boxes can be tracked, so I hope he signed up under an alias or something. Also, let me say I love the woman that is with him. My English is bleh, so I'm not quite sure what her name is, but she is very funny the whole video. I also think he was very smart for wearing gloves immediately. In 5th grade, my friends made this acid volcano and they didn't use gloves. That's almost how I see this box, safety-wise. He also says he paid $300, I'm guessing US dollars, for which it means, as of the time of writing this, it was 0.045 Bitcoin, and that makes me wish I got paid in Bitcoin. The first item he pulls out of the box is a Samsung Galaxy S6, and honestly, I have this phone. So I know a lot about it, and I will say this is a taped or fake version of the phone. Now, the actual pictures on the phone look like these pictures from Craigslist. If I find them, I'll include them, from a guy that was looking for a roommate. I know this was a huge meme in 2014, but I don't know if it was real or not, and the post was taken down, so I can't really find it with my current resources. Since you are watching, if you still have the phone, I would suggest going in and looking at the details. It will tell you if it is screenshotted, downloaded, or taken, and it will also tell you where it was taken if it was. Next, he pulls out a My Little Pony backpack, and, fun fact, I actually had the same exact backpack in 2006, so I decided to do a little bit of research to help find the girl. So if you type in A. Barnett into Google, first thing that comes up is a girl who is missing. Now this is way too recent for me, since I felt if this is actually a missing little girl's backpack, her case would be a lot older than 2016. In fact, I put the exact timeline of my search between 2007 and 2011. I got over 10,000 results, and none of them seemed to come through. Barnett is an extremely common name, but I narrowed it down to about 20 girls, then 2, one named Alice and another named Amy. One was killed after being kidnapped and held for 3 days, and the other was kidnapped and has yet to be found. Like I said, there is thousands of other girls it would be, but the way I narrowed it down, they seem to be the only 2 who fit my search. Also, out of respect for their family, I'm not going to give you exact information, and if you Google it, you won't find it because those are fake versions of their names. These little girls have already been through a lot, and so have their families, but the last thing they need is a teenager poking around their cases and giving false hope. Now we are getting into the part where I start to give up. The little boy's clothes found in the bag are for a toddler or a young child. The Jesus statue was given out in the late 90s and early 2000s at approximately 4,000 different churches across US and Canada. The first book, Fun Things to Make for Children, was something homeschool teachers in the 60s to 80s in mostly California. It has biblical references all through it, so maybe that's why he drew crosses on it, but I honestly don't know. The store it was distributed from, Lane Books in Menlo, California, is now a bookstore for college textbook and training books, so it could have been bought by a teacher if it was recent. I called them, and they said they haven't had information about the book in 20 years, so yeah, these were such random items, and they couldn't go together. Individually, I could find things about them, but altogether, I found nothing. Now, the second book was actually very helpful because it helped me in my search for the child, as well as added answers to previous questions I had for the other contents of the video. The book itself had been around since 2009, and you can buy it on Amazon for $4 US, and the book was very common for children to have. It was most popular in 2009 to 2011, and each number is a different animal or object. The description says it introduces young readers to the numbers 1 through 10 by counting such objects as a rocking horse, elephants, boats, and hats. Now inside the actual book, there are ripped numbers until you get to 4. 4 has the picture of a little boy, and what really seemed to strike them was that he was the number 4, but if I'm being honest, the boats are what really got me. In criminology, one of the first things you learn is how bodies are disposed of, and what they mean by how they were disposed. I swear this rant is getting somewhere. If you were a criminal and you wanted to dispose a body without anyone knowing, what would you do? Throw it in a river. Water and fire are the 2 ways to get rid of evidence, including a body, so that shook me a bit. I also decided to reverse image search it, and it brought me to a missing kid poster of a boy. Now, I'm not saying this is him or that this is true. This is just a theory. The boy went missing in February 2002, and he has been missing since, and he kind of looks like the boy in this picture, but get this. He was born in March of 1997. That means he was 4 when he was taken, and he was last seen by a riverbank. Like I said, could just be a coincidence, and I could just be looking too much into this, but it's still amazing. Now we have a briefcase, and I was able to track down this one. It's an Australian or Kiwi brand, and they're handmade, so none of them are exactly alike, but they all come from a specific line that is known for that year. This line is from 87 to 92 and costs about $383 per bag. They also don't sell this bag anymore, and when they did, not many people bought it. Inside the bag is a set of hoodoo dolls. When I first saw it, I thought they were African hoodoo until a coven sister of mine said that if they included teeth, they could be pagan. It doesn't really matter since both have the same meaning for this color of doll, but I thought that might give me some insight to who this belongs to. Each color of a voodoo doll means something different. Both of these dolls are completely black, so they stand for transfiguration, removal of bad habits, grief, strife, poverty, confusion, bad luck. These dolls are also only used in black magic. In case you don't know how it works, you need a personal object to finish and seal the ritual. Most common is hair and nails, but a lot of people use teeth and skin as well. If it is not disposed of properly, then you can cause an extreme amount of pain and suffering to the person connected to the doll, so don't burn it or nail it or crush it. Wrap red ribbon around it and then bury it. Now we have a ring. This is a pre-engagement ring, and a similar one cost almost $6,000 US, and that's all I could find. I am going to skip the bottles, but I will talk about the teddy bear. I actually found the same exact teddy bear, and it was sold at Kmart in 2016 for $12, and upon this research, I also found something interesting. There are bears you can buy for children who die young that you can put their ashes in. They look just like this one and are about $40 more, and they come with a urn, a thing of red yarn, a padded heart, and a needle. This is mostly for mothers of stillborns and children that died from cancer, but it still is a very interesting concept. Now I know what you're thinking. Why the fuck are you mentioning this? But here is why. In 2009, there was a case in New York where people were smuggling things like heroin and meth and guns inside teddy bears, and they got the idea from those little urn bears. This is a common thing. When he first opened it, that's why I thought it would have ashes in it, but I was wrong. It had a clay or ceramic heart box that had a USB in it. I will come back to the USB in a minute, but first I will talk about the picture. This is a poem, a very famous poem actually, by a school teacher. This is known as the most wise poem that is mostly for children, but adults can take away from it as well. It pretty much is a poem about how your actions have consequences, no matter if it is parent to child or child to child. Everything you do will affect your way of mind as you grow older. I've never seen it with this picture, but I do know it is a very common poem, at least it was in the early 2000s. Now for the grand finale, the USB, the Aurora of Viet, the Putin of Russia, the Alexandria of Moscow, the mystery of the whole video. This was the hardest part for me, because it could just be a deep web art project. Now, if it is not, then here is my evaluation. First thing I did was ask my friend Noah to look on 4chan for any video or anything being talked about that could be related to or titled We All Eat, and the results were, pardon my French, complete and utter shit. Most of the responses were saying it's cannibal Holocaust clip scenes, or told him to search the deep web himself. Now the guy in the video did a clip by clip go through on the video, so I'm not going to explain it here, but I didn't really paste it together until me and my friends were joking around one night. So everyone knows what cannibalism is, but a lot of people, at least I assume, don't know what pedo-cannibalism is. Now if you have knowledge of prefix pedo, then you are already one step ahead of me, but if you don't, then I can sum it up in a sentence. Pedo and pedo mean the same thing. Have you ever heard of a pedophile? Well, this is a person who prefers to eat infants and young children. Yes, this is an actual thing. In fact, there is a huge market for it on the dark web. Some like it for spiritual purposes, some like it for fetish purposes. And it made me come to the conclusion this may be what the video is showing. Pedo-cannibals often buy infants or have infants illegally and harbor them to their preferred age or when they are ripe. It is a lot like pedophilia if you think about it, but it is all very dark. They harbor these infants by the tens. There was one guy who had 25 illegal babies at once before he was caught. This would explain the nanny cams and other images as well as the titles and wording on things. Now for my final thoughts. Do I think he should go to the police? No. I have a feeling he was probably scammed, and if he wasn't, like the girl said, there is no way to track where the box came from. As for the hard drive, if you still have it, I would suggest looking at the source and open it in a video editor so you can examine each clip in its entirety. If it isn't proof of pedo-cannibals, then it could be clips from Cannibal Holocaust or a deep web art project, but I can't really know for sure. Make sure you buried the voodoo dolls and saged the building you were in. Special thanks to Shannon for doing the voiceover, for helping me look into this, as well as Rhea, Noah, Ree, and Emily. Happy early birthday, Rhea, and thank you for being my friend for nearly a decade. Also, big thanks to Mindseed TV. If it weren't for him putting up with my constant bugging, this episode wouldn't have happened. So thank you for letting me use this video for my series, and I hope everyone's day is as lovely as the sun. Thank you, and this has been the second episode of Let's Analyze This.